Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Goss from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign with Sigma Alpha's Agriculture in the Classroom. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about maple syrup, how it's made and how it gets to your grocery store. Do you like pancakes? Waffles? How about French toast? What do you like to put on them? If the answer is maple syrup, then you'll be excited to hear how maple syrup is made. Maple syrup comes from maple trees. There are three kinds of trees that are best for making maple syrup: the sugar maple, the red maple, and the black maple. These trees can all help make maple syrup and are the most likely ones to be found in the regions where maple syrup is made. Maple trees are tapped or have a hole drilled into them when all the trees are all grown up. Inside the trees, a special kind of sugar is made. This is called sap. We have to drill the holes inside the trees all the way into the center to get to the sap. After we have drilled a hole to get the sap, a tap is usually put on, which is shown bigger here. Now in this other picture, you can't really see the taps, but you can see that there's a tube leading out and down into another bucket. Here, the tap is just directly above the bucket, so all the sap can drip right into the bucket. Whichever method we use, whether we just use a tap and a bucket right below it, or a tube, we have to have some kind of way to collect the sap after it comes out of the tree. Most maple trees are tapped after the winter in the early springtime. Many maple syrup farmers harvest their sap during March, so there still may be snow on the ground in some places, including in Illinois. All the sap that is collected in the buckets from the taps has to get taken somewhere else, called a sugar shack. A sugar shack is a house filled with special equipment specifically for making maple syrup. Over here, you can see that this man has finished making some of his maple syrup, and he's collected all these empty buckets. Inside this sugar shack, he may have maple syrup already all ready to go. To make the maple syrup, it does not have to be done in a sugar shack. You can even do it on your own stove at home. The sap from the trees must be boiled, just like water when you're making pasta. When the sap is boiled, all the water is removed. Then, what is left in the pot is the maple syrup. This is very important because the warm maple syrup has to get transferred out of a pot and into its container right away, so it can be the best possible maple syrup found in your grocery store. Maple syrup has been in North America for over 400 years. Native Americans drilled maple trees over 400 years ago to get the sap. They knew that the sugar inside was sweet and that they could use this to make a kind of syrup. Instead of doing a pot over the fire, they could also freeze the maple syrup overnight, so that way all the water would be on top of the maple syrup, frozen. They would take the frozen part off the top of the maple syrup, and then in the bottom of their bucket or pot, they would be left with pure maple syrup. In the United States, Vermont is the biggest producer of maple syrup. Even though it is not a very big state, it has a lot of maple trees and a lot of people who are very dedicated to making maple syrup. In Canada, this large chunk up here, called a province, named Quebec, is the biggest producer of maple syrup in the world. They have lots and lots of maple trees here that can make lots and lots of maple syrup to put in your grocery store. You can buy pure maple syrup to put on your breakfast foods, but maple syrup can also be added to many other things. Maple syrup can also have other flavors added to it, such as vanilla or blueberry, to give the maple syrup a slightly different flavor, but still with a maple syrup base to it, meaning it is focused on maple syrup, similar to maple syrup, but may taste like blueberries or may taste like vanilla instead. Thank you for learning all about maple syrup with me.